Hi, I'm Michelle Duffy, Editor-in-Chief of American Quilter Magazine. We are at AQS QuiltWeek in Paducah, Kentucky, and with me is Linda Roy, who's placed first in our bed quilts hand quilted division, sponsored by Superior Thread. So Linda, thank you for being here with us.
You're welcome.
And you are an amazing tribute to Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm sure they're putting up a statue in your honor at this time. Well, let me ask you, how many ribbons have you won?
Approximately 15 or so over the years, since 1992, 93. So it's been a period of years.
Have they all been in hand quilting?
Back when they had amateur, it was amateur applique was my first win, and it's changed over the years, so it's been different categories.
Interesting.
But I've always done hand quilting and hand applique.
Okay, so out of curiosity, and I can't remember her name, who taught you how to quilt?
Irma Gail Hatcher was my biggest influence. I moved to Conway, Arkansas, and she was building a home in my neighborhood, and through her, she introduced me to the wonderful world. And I've not looked back.
And we're glad for that. Okay, so please tell me, what inspired your quilt?
2 years ago, Gerald Roy gave one of his lectures, which is every year it's a succession or it's a woman's work is never done. And the very last quilt top he showed was a Hexagon quilt, scrap quilt. But the designer had placed black scraps vertically and then crisscrossed them. And I glanced at it and immediately saw a spider web. My eye did this in between the spokes. Mm-hmm. And at the same show, I found this fabric and the checks and the stripe and just, a lot of the fabrics that are in here. And I just knew immediately what I wanted to do. I overbought fabric because I kept the fabric, all the grain going up and down vertically, so I wouldn't have any stretching, because this is hand appliqued. This is hand appliqued to this and so forth, so the entire quilt is hand done. It's hand applique, even though it looks pieced.
Yeah, wow. So this little line here is sort of...
It's a transition, right? I appliqued this piece to that and that to this, and I did it in quarter sections, which is easier for me to handle. Mm-hmm. And each section, this was one piece for the background, and then this was another piece, and when I joined them, I basted with a machine down the center to hold them together, and then I appliqued this in place, and then I cut away the backing. So it's really just all hand done. What's visible and what's left is hand workmanship.
Wow. Okay, so I'm sure our viewers are wondering, what do you use when you're hand quilting? Is it in your lap? Do you use a hoop, a stand?
I use a Morgan hoop. I have 3 different sizes, and depends on the area that I'm quilting, whether I use a large one or a medium or a small one. I frequently do trapunto, which is not in this quilt, and that's easier for me if I can get close to my work for the stuffing.
Okay. Well, on the subject of products, what type of thread do you like, or what kind did you use?
I always use YLI 100, number 100 silk thread for my applique, for everything. And I use the same size needle for my quilting as I do my applique, a John James size 9 betweens.
Okay, so you never waver from those two?
No, my hand's gotten used to the feel of the needle. And I use Hobbs batting, most frequently the wool, but I've tried some of the other ones, like he has a black 80-20 cotton, which is appropriate for some quilts if it's got black on the surface.
Okay. Have you tried the wool cotton?
Yes, and I love it.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, I really do. Yeah, I've used it twice and on small pieces to see how I liked it. Mm-hmm. It's very nice.
Okay. Will you show me something that you found challenging?
Yeah, appliquing these pieces together to keep it from stretching, because this is all on the bias, but the grain is going this way. So that was challenging. It came together really fast. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this quilt, and it's one of the few quilts I've made that I really don't think there's anything I would do different. I'm actually happy with it. Oftentimes when I stand back and look at it, I think, well, maybe I should have done this or that. But this quilt, I'm happy with it the way it turned out.
Okay, and what about your color choices?
I guess it stems from finding this fabric And then I had this fabric, so I really pulled my colors from this one, and that's why I purchased this stripe, because it just went, you know. And I had scrap reds, so I chose to lighten it a little bit. I used scrap reds. And I used yo-yos, which is different for me. Typically I use ruching, and then I centered a stuffed upside down yo-yo in the center of the flowers. And I quilted around the red flowers about 1/4 inch and embroidered on top of the quilting to give it a little more presence, because I thought they were a little small for the scale. And this is quilted with in the feather and then embroidered on top with a Valdani pearl cotton. And I also embroidered here because the colors ran together so much. I wanted to give them a little separation.
Okay, can you tell us, I really want to know, how do you decide what you're going to quilt, whether it's a crosshatch or a spider web? I mean, I can see the spider web in those outer
Yeah, in
areas,
this area
and I
here.
love the way that it's
Yeah.
you know, mimicked here.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? What's kind of your thought process?
I think about that when I'm planning the quilt, and I just thought that it lent itself to straight line quilting. I've done that more and more frequently. Typically I did in the past always crosshatch. And even in the border I did straight line, and I did it towards one of the flowers and then this way and that way to continue the straight line.
Okay, so how long have you been quilting?
I started approximately 1990, 1989. Never looked back. I love it. It's a really creative outlet for me, and it's wonderful that we have the shows to show our work in. At home, nobody sees them but the family, so this is wonderful.
Have you taught anyone else how you do your quilting?
Just on a very minimal scale, locally.
Okay. Okay. Oh, what do you plan to do with this quilt?
It's going to go to our local show the end of May, and I hang them in my house. I have one wall that I rotate my quilts, so we enjoy them. And my husband made me some quilt racks, so I don't have them all stuck in a closet. I actually can enjoy them. You know, sometimes they're folded and there may be 8 on one rack, but they're not put away.
Would you consider selling some of your quilts?
Probably not.
All right. Oh, so how long did this one take?
This took about 9 months because I knew what I wanted to do when I started it.
So does that imply that it takes a lot longer?
Well, the design process, you're thinking about it before you actually start working on it. And I never know when people ask how long did it take, does it include that or not? Because that's time consuming. And I lose sleep over the decisions. Once I start on the quilt, I relax, and the hand quilting is what I love to do. I really relax when I do it.
Well, we absolutely love it too. And if you ever want to teach someone how to hand quilt, I will show up at your house with dinner.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
you, Linda, for joining us, and thank you for being with us today at AQS Quilt Week. We'll see you again later.
Thank
Bye.
you.